Hello and welcome to 100 Yards of Football Sports Talk Radio. I'm your producer, Jeremiah Long, and joining me to talk about an amazing draft profile on Dillon Radunz out of North Dakota State, it's Logan Landers. How's it going, Mr. Landers?
What's going on, Jeremiah? It's Monday. You know what that means for us? Football talk, and more specifically, NFL draft prospect talk. I'm ready to talk about this young man coming out of a school that it's got a lot of notoriety in the last couple of years, getting some pretty good names. Carson Wentz, you made a hurry of him, in North Dakota State. So hopefully the man we're talking about today is going to be up there with some of the greats from North Dakota.
Absolutely. Well, everybody who's watching, I know that you love the show. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe, and make sure that you listen to our podcast daily. But let's jump right in here and talk about Dillon Radunz. And I want to know more about North Dakota State as well. Tell us, what's in the water up there? What's happening with North Dakota State and what's going on with Dillon Radunz? And why is he going to be an amazing draft profile pick? And, of course, tell us your 3 picks for the teams that would be great to draft him.
Yeah, so Dillon Radunz, a offensive tackle out of North Dakota State, like you said. And the reason that this school has been getting a lot of notoriety the last couple of years is they've just been winning a lot they've been winning a lot. And people have been taking notice of them. And I think, like you said, like I said earlier, Carson Wentz was one of the bigger names that's gotten drafted out of there that's for the Indianapolis Colts now, was with the Eagles and has a Super Bowl ring as well. So I think that once he kind of came out of there, that was a big key, and they finally got a lot of recognition. We've been talking about a few players from there in the past, and we'll have to see, if Dillon Radunz is another good one that can come out of there. But when I was looking at this young man's stats for his career in NDSU, he didn't play his 2020 season. He played in one game, I believe, just to show a fan appreciation. I'm still here, but he opted out the remaining games to pursue his NFL Combine and his NFL Pro Day. To just be better suited for that. But whenever I was looking at this young man, I came across a stat that was absolutely mind-boggling. So in 2019, his junior season, his last full years, he did not allow 0 sacks. 0 sacks were allowed against a quarterback, which is absolutely phenomenal. He played in every single game his 2019 season as well as his 2018 season. So this young man has played in a lot of games, even though it was just those 2 years. He has proven that he can be healthy. And that was, looking at him when he first came in, he had an injury. I believe it was a leg injury. So I think that after coming back from that, he was able to really show in his last 2 seasons in 18 and 19 that he is healthy and that he can really help out this Bison program. So this kid is a great offensive tackle, even though he is coming from a smaller school. The competition is not going to be as high quality as you might see from the SECs, the ACCs, Big 12, all that kind of stuff. But he is a very good player. You can't always think of offensive linemen and you see the school. You just never know these guys, to be fair. This is always just a shot in the dark with these guys for the most part because they're all very big. They're all strong. And, there's a lot of guys that we talked about that don't give up many sacks. It's just kind of a pick your own and see what happens with them and these guys. But I think Dillon Radunz, the thing with him is that while, he is coming from a small school and while he is getting a lot of draft talk about him, I think that if he's able to really show out in the NFL, he can kind of prove to more people, it's like, look, the quality of the school, the quality of the play for these schools don't really matter too much. It's just, you have to look at the individual person themselves. You don't need to knock the whole conference or the whole team. That we've seen guys who get drafted who are on teams that win 2 or 3 games a season, but there's that one-star player, And with Dillon, he was on a really good team, but it was just in a smaller conference. But he showed that at the left tackle position, which is, where it looks like he is going to be best suited for in the draft, which is one of the most important positions on the offensive line, because that's your blind side for the majority of quarterbacks who are right-handed, and you won't be seeing who's coming up from behind you. But if you got Dillon Radunz there, I think that this man, he's definitely going to be able to help any team out because he's got really good pass blocking. Like I said, he allowed 0 sacks in his 2019 season. He's got a good height and weight to him. He's around 6'5", 6'6", just at 300 pounds, give or take. So he's got a really good frame on him. And I'm looking here for his pro day, and he had a pretty good run at things. And I think that his strength is what really kind of – I looked at it, and he was like, man, this guy's got a good bit of strength on him. And he also, his agility is not going to be there, but you don't really look for too much agility from these guys. They're not going to be, running up and down the field, stuff like that. But I think he ran a 5'11", 40-yard dash. So that's not amazing. But like I said, when you look at offensive linemen, you're not looking for those guys to have blazing speed. There's nothing like that you're looking for. But like I said, I really think the bench press is where it came in. And like I said, I believe it's 225 pounds. He got 24 reps off on that. So he definitely showed that if you're looking at the picture here on our Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, you can see he's got some pretty good muscles on him. He's got some tattoos as well. So he can deal with a little bit of pain. He's also got, like I said, whenever the majority of the pro day stuff is more based off of agility and athleticism, and that's really not the best tool for looking at offensive linemen. For this one, you have to look at more kind of game footage. And in his game footage, he's had a really good career for the Bison, and I think that he can do it both. He can do fast blocking as well as run blocking. Pass blocking, I think that's his go-to. There's the one knock on him people are going to say is his balancing. But I mean, like I said, it's hard to it's a little bit hard to be balanced when you're 6'5", 300 pounds. But he can definitely work on that and improve that, I think, with the right coach, I think, and he can help out a team tremendously. So like you mentioned in the opening, Jeremiah, I've got my 3 teams who I think this young man could be headed to in the NFL draft coming up at the end of April. So without further ado, the first team I think Mr. Dillon Radunz could go to is the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins, like I said, they got a good quarterback. They got Tua. They'll see if he's their future, and hopefully he can ball out for the Dolphins out there and get them a few more wins and get them a really good playoff push. If he can bolster up that offensive line, get Dillon Radunz there, who I think could be, kind of a sleeper pick when it comes to offensive tackles, then he could really help out Tua as well as that whole Dolphins offense, and we'll have to see how he can head to. The next team I have this young man going to is the Chicago Bears. The Bears, they're in a little bit of a weird situation, I would say. They're starting Andy Dalton at their starting quarterback position, which a lot of people are kind of scratching their heads around. They're thinking that they might get a quarterback in this draft because I don't know about Andy Dalton being your starting quarterback. He's a seasoned veteran. There's no doubt about that. But I mean, I don't know if you would lead your team with him at this given time. He's not young and he's not the youngest quarterback in the room anymore. And after the whole Mitchell Trubisky era is already, kind of fallen on the wayside, they're kind of in a state of pandemonium trying to figure out who their next quarterback going to be. But I think that Andy Dalton's going to be just kind of a replacement quarterback that once they get a new one in there, he'll be out by they'll probably have like a season of him, then get rid of him, get the new guy in there. But regardless, I think that if you can get Dillon Radunz in there and with Andy Dalton at the quarterback position, he can help them too. Let's not forget that Andy's been around the league for a long time now. Had a really good career with the Bengals, went over to the Cowboys for a little bit. I think that if he can he can learn off that because Andy's been around a pretty good offensive line. He's seen a lot of good players, and I think that if Dillon could be there with the Chicago Bears, who have a really good defense, that's what they're built off of is their defense. I think they can start building that offense up and still start building your offensive line up if you can pick up Dillon Radunz. And my third team I have him going to is a team who is they're right there, I think, at the playoff. If they've got a really good offseason so far, they've gotten some really good picks. But I think that if the Minnesota Vikings can scoop up Dillon Radunz, I think that would be a tremendous pick for them. They can really help out that offensive line. And I think that, you have Dalvin Cook, who is one of the better running backs in this league. We saw what he did this past 2020 season. You got Kirk Cousins at the helm, who's a veteran quarterback. And, I mean, if you can just keep boosting up your offensive line, then I think that would be great. Dillon is also out of Becker, Minnesota as well. So that would be, I'm sure, a team he would love to play for, go to the Minnesota Vikings and wearing that purple and gold. So I think that any of those 3 teams would be willing to have this young man on their squad, helping them out, and, hopefully leading them to a lot of yards per game, whether it's in the passing or the running game. I think that Dillon is going to be a slept-on pick in the NFL draft. I do believe that, and I do think he's going to – only reason he's dropped is just because, like I said earlier, is the school he played for in North Dakota State, but don't be sleeping on them anymore. Now, we've seen some quality players come out of there. I think it's time to start – it's time to stop sleeping on these teams and start looking at the individual players. Like I said, when you look at 2018-19 season, he played every single game. He only, in his early seasons, he had a knee injury. He came back from that. He didn't allow any sacks his 2019 season. So, I mean, I think that if you can get this guy on the field and get him in a good system with a good offense around him, he can really shine and he can really have a good, a long career in the NFL.
Yeah, well, I think we're going to find him a spot. What do you guys think that are watching? Tell us in the comments exactly what you think about Dillon Radunz and where you think that he'll be drafted. Who do you think is a great team to draft him? Do you agree with our 3 picks? Could it be the Dolphins, the Bears, or the Vikings? Let us know in the comments what you think about Dillon Radunz. And, I'll tell you that he definitely seems like a dude who has strong hands, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
He does his job. He seems like stable. He seems strong. And so he deserves his chance in the NFL. So NFL teams, if you're watching us now, which I'm sure you watch every episode of 100 Yards of Football, then make sure your pro scouts are watching when we talk about Dillon Radunz, and just to tell you that, he deserves his shot. So in the end, you have any final words about Dillon Radunz?
Yeah, I hope this young kid has a really good career in the NFL personally. Like I said, coming out of a smaller school, he can really make a name for himself in the NFL, help out North Dakota State's legacy, help them out, have a great career in the NFL. I like his strength. I like everything about him. He like I said, he got the 24 bench press reps on his pro day. He really impressed a lot of scouts, and they kind of, their ears perked up a little bit when they started hearing this guy's name. So I think, like I said, even though he sat out this 2020 season, it didn't affect his draft stock at all. He proved over his 2 solid years of work, as well as his pro day, that he is a solid offensive tackle in this league. And whatever team gets him, they're going to get a really good pick, I think. And I think that, he could be around for, maybe 10 years as long as he stays healthy. So hopefully, the best to Dillon, and hopefully you can get a couple Pro Bowls in his career. We'll see.
Absolutely. Well, everybody watching on YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook, thank you so much. And make sure you subscribe. And everybody who's wanting to listen to our podcast, make sure you jump over and listen to it. And everybody who's currently listening to it, thank you. We're on all podcast channels as 100 Yards of Football, including Spotify, including Apple Podcast. So just jump on to any way that you listen to podcasts, including over on your Google Home device or anywhere else. Just say, hey, please play 100 Yards of Football podcast. Well, so for the entire team here at 100 Yards of Football, I'm the producer, Jeremiah Long, and I've been joined with my amazing lead host here, Logan Landers, to talk about Dillon Radunz out of North Dakota State. If there's any other profiles that you'd like to see or any other players you'd like to see profiled, then just let us know in the comments or send us a message. I'm Jeremiah Long, and this is Logan Landers, and we'll see you on the next episode.